In the past, I've made lots of videos which I've been ranting, I've been having a go, and I've been somewhat mean and demeaning, and I've been giving out a bollocking, and I've been... Basically what I've been doing is I've been kicking the dog. You know, when you get this scenario whereby it's called kicking the dog syndrome, when, you know, somebody can upset you and then you've just got to project that. You've just got to get rid of that ill feeling onto somebody else. And isn't it curious how this works? Because if somebody says something to you which upsets you, all of a sudden you carrying weight. What's going on there? You've got this weight. And then it's kind of like, I don't want this weight. I'm going to give it to somebody else. And so you walk into the next room and you go, oh, you, fuck this and fuck that. Here, have this weight. And so we're passing this weight around. Ask the question, is there really an entity that we can't see that, like, jumps on our backs? And we feel the weight of it, we feel the negative vibes of this thing. Some sort of, you know, invisible shadow being. You know, like Ike talks about, these negative energies that suck us, that they're parasitical and they suck our energy out of us. And can you imagine then if we're walking around and these parasitical negative entities, they're all around, they're just waiting for an opportunity where they can become vital. And what actually has to happen is that we have to get into a low vibration. Once we get in, here we go again, low vibration, high vibration, we have to get into a negative vibration, which is probably a high vibration because it's a heightened and it's a tense semblance of suppressed energy. And so if these negative energies are all around us, and they are the proverbial parasite, and they want to feed on our negative energy, then as soon as we have an altercation, or as soon as we feel negative for whatever reason, then one of these leech-like creatures latches onto us. And the only way we can get rid of it is by what's the actual act that we do? We project. We transfer. There's an invisible transference. If I'm standing next to somebody and I've just been abused and I just abused that person, then I'm transferring my negative energy onto that person. Why is it that we get a release from that? What is it that makes us feel better once we've unloaded it to somebody else, once we've hurt somebody else? What is it that makes us feel better when we hurt somebody else? Is it really because there is actually an energy that is leeching on us, and the way we get rid of it is by our projections? And then it just flies off onto a new arena for it to be parasitical on, because it prefers the new sensation of negativism when it is probably heightened in some way. And then after some time it becomes more dull, or it becomes less nutritious to it. I'm speaking very philosophical here, people. It's not madness. We're just playing, aren't we? We're playing with words and we're just supposing. Because if we just suppose, and if we fantasize, then this is how new ideas come about. And so I'm now aware that there could be all these negative entities around, and if I don't want one to launch itself upon my back, then I have to stay away from negative energy, people who are so readily prepared to pass their parasite onto me. Now this obviously is more liable and probable to happen in a stressed environment, which are cities predominantly. They're very stressed environments. And so when you're in a city, then you can very easily be attached by one of these entities. This is leading on now to the main crux of this video, because since I've been watching the self and I've been analysing the self, and I've noticed that there are a myriad of seeming personalities, spirits, entities, which dwell within me, which are facets of the I, the self. I just don't see it as we're just one. You know, it's like we are a diamond with 1,000 facets. And so we can say we're one in as much as that, like we can say we're one in as much that we all share the one consciousness. But we feel separated, don't we? And so if we are like a spirit in the shape of 1,000-sided diamond, and each one of these sides is a potential energy which can make manifest in a certain way. And so I've realized that when I go through my life, because I'm man watching, I'm watching the man. And I now know that every single environment turns the diamond to bring about a facet which is projecting, let's say. It's got the potential to project. And so when I was on that main road, there was one facet facing forward, and instantly when I turned off onto this tranquil part, then it just turns around again and there's another part, because my whole demeanour, my whole disposition has changed. So getting back then, sorry I meander, but there's so many multifacets to look at. We have to embrace the whole if we're going to try to get a handle on what's going on here. If I watch a video of somebody who is ranting and raving and hates the world, then there's a very high probability that I will be contaminated by that. And the very act of me watching that person, then the parasite which is on the back of that angry person, if I start to get angry in the same vibration, it will leapfrog. It can do this. It doesn't need to be in the same vicinity. It can do it from the other side of the world via the internet, because there is no time, there is no space. And so these things, they don't have to comply with these so-called laws that we feel are all about us. If you watch somebody on YouTube and they are in a very heightened state of anxiety, just see. Watch your heart and see how you feel that. See how you embody that. And you'll realise then how we so easily become contaminated. And so we have to be very, very careful of the things we watch, the things we read, the people we are in contact with, and the environment in which we are within. Because all of these things, they have a great potential to change our disposition. So the other day, when I was in London, and I'm listening to the incessant noise every single 30 seconds coming from Heathrow or Gatwick or both. It seems we're under a flight path. You've got the thunder of airliners. Every minute you've got the passing of trains, because the train's running straight up through the country, straight from down in central London down south towards where I was in Clapham or Battersea. And then you have the incessant traffic, and you know, all the things that pertain to traffic, like sirens and horns and screeching and you know, backfiring and all this sort of stuff. And I really became quite agitated by that. And it was very, very evident that I was agitated by that, because then what I did is I went into kick the dog syndrome. I got a parasite. Because my energy became negative, a parasite latched onto me. And then I felt the negativism of this parasite, and I wanted to pass it on. And so therefore I went in to kick the dog, and I started to kick you, the viewer. I've deleted this video because I think I can explain. You don't have to see it, because you'd be feeling it. You would receive my parasite, and I don't want to pass on my parasite. And I'm going to be very mindful from this point forward about how I potentially can pass on negative parasites. They are seemingly as real as anything else when you look at it rationally, people. When you go and see a movie and the movie's terrifying, it is affecting you. It is the words and the sound and the ambience coming from that screen is coming straight into your heart. You're carrying the weight of it. If it's a romance and a love story, wow, you're feeling beautiful. And so we have to know, and we have to be very, very aware of what's going on. As soon as we walk in a room, when we become empathic, sensitive to other people's vibrations, we can feel them straight away. And this is how I've become now. I can feel people's vibrations from meters away. And I can see them and interpret how they're feeling. And when you're on magic mushrooms, psilocybin, then it becomes exaggerated by 1,000, and you just look at people and oh, how bizarre. You know, then you feel the magnitude of this universe, because you are residing with other energies, other entities in the guise of human beings. You absolutely know that. And so this is why I don't have any problem in saying that there are such a thing as these negative parasites, and they're all around. And somebody coined the termination Wetiko, like a human virus, and this person was talking about this Wetiko being a human virus, and it's spreading and it's prevailing. Yes, it's something similar to that, only I'm describing it differently. I'm describing it how I feel it to be, how I see it. As far as I'm concerned, it's original to me, something that I've interpreted from this world. And when I am carrying a parasite, I know about it. And so the first people to know about it is you guys. When I'm ranting and raving and cussing and swearing and being abusive and demeaning and on and on and on, it's because I'm carrying a parasite. And then lots of you will carry that parasite. If there's 300 people watch my video and there are 100 of you who are touched by it, you feel you're susceptible to this negative energy, then this parasite that I'm carrying will separate itself into as many of you who are susceptible, who have lowered or highered your vibration to the frequency of this negative energy, and it will multiply and it will launch upon you. It sounds crazy, it sounds weird, And if you don't like the metaphor, then bring it down to something that you're not afraid of, because lots of people can be afraid about that. They can think like, oh, all invisible negative energies, they're all around me. Everything's all around you. We're in a multiverse, and the multiverses, they're not out there and over there, they're here now. They're at a different frequency. Because our vision is a tiny, tiny slither of the possible light that can be seen in this cosmos. Our hearing is the same. Our senses, they're very, very limited. And so when people, they get hypersensitive about certain things, then they can start to see auras, they can start to see apparitions, they can start to see entities, and you see, they can start to see a whole lot more, can't they? And so we can't deny these things. We can't project our fear onto these people, saying that they're crazy just because they're experiencing something that we're not. It's because they've tuned into something in another vibration that we haven't. I'm going to go back down here now. All of a sudden, that is getting to me again. Really? Changing my demeanour. And as I walk down here now, I'm getting more and more like... I just feel relieved when I go into some peace on this earth. Peace is getting hard to find. When you are in peace, when you've experienced peace for a long time, then you are very, very sensitive to this noise pollution that is going on. And it's a fertile arena for this negative energy. And I could well envision a swirling, howling, screeching vortex of negative energy all around the cities, and feeding in a frenzy upon human souls, the human spirit. If we could see this energy looking down at the cities, just imagine a black vortex whirling around, howling and screeching, something that sounds so hideously terrifying, because potentially that's the nature of it. And what effect does it have upon our health when we have these parasites? And we have them on a daily basis, because all through the city we get on a bus and somebody projects onto us the negative energy, and then the negative entity leapfrogs onto us, and then we go into a shop, or we go into work, or whatever we're doing, if you could imagine this one then, as all the human beings are walking around, you've got these like ghoulish, shadowy, greeny, slimy, black things that are like, you know, something like a sick, ghoulish creature that is feeding on the beautiful human spirit. Only what is it feeding on? It's feeding on this negative, this byproduct of the human being. It's a byproduct created via these artificial environments. It's not really natural to us. It has developed. It's like it's evolved. Or maybe it was always here, but now it's getting much, much stronger and fatter, because we are creating very, very fertile feeding grounds for these negative energies. This is why I want to get away from all of this, and I want to be in small towns where people are just walking around at the pace I'm walking around at. And you think to yourself, do you have anywhere to go? And like, you know, probably just walk down to pick up a paper and a bottle of milk. That's all I've got to do that day. And I'm not necessarily talking retired people, but I've been in many countries. Bulgaria, for one. You know, that was a country whereby people never seem to have anywhere pressingly engaging to go. They even in the height of day, nobody was driving fast and nobody was rushing around the streets. It was all like they was on holiday. And you know, some countries are still like that, but they're diminishing very, very quickly. So there's something for you to think about, people. And I discovered that the other day, again, you know, we keep making discoveries on top of discoveries and discoveries. And on one of these times when you rediscover something, the penny drops and it has a greater impact. And so Paul and I, we were speaking about it the other day, and I was going, my God, do we have any free will? Are we being moved by energies that we have no clue that are around us? We just don't understand anything of the vibration that's going on. We don't lend ourselves to it. We never are settled enough to analyse it and to look and to ask the questions like I'm asking now. What is happening from a day-to-day basis when we get moved and manipulated by energies that we can't see? And because we can't see them, we don't think there's any reality. And we don't know why we're really suffering in our mind. We don't know why we're tired. We don't know why we're agitated. We don't know why we don't want to go out and mingle with people. But I would suggest that it's because we're carrying parasites. And so if we're mindful then as to acquiring these parasites, who we care to mix with, and how we control our disposition, our demeanour, because if we become agitated about somebody else, then the parasites can see this and they'll be on you in a flash. And so it suggests to us then that by keeping calm, the parasites, they can't attach themselves to you, because we've got no food for them. I was in a bar today. I went in a bar for lunch. No, this morning I went in for coffee. And when I paid the girl behind the counter the money for the coffee, I was counting it. I put the change on the counter, and I'm pushing it like that, and then there's a couple more coins, and I put them on the counter. And she said, "Can you put them in the hand instead of on the counter?" And I went, "Please." And she never looked at me. She just gathered them up and she marched off. I thought, okay, I'm going to ask for the manager. And I'm going to say, I'm not happy with the way I just got spoken to there. And then I thought, well, what am I going to be doing then? I'm just going to be feeding the negative energy, aren't I? And so sometimes I like to stand by principles, but this was so minor. I thought, just leave that one. And then I remained very, very calm, instead of having to call the manager and expressing how I felt, and then the manager going and having a word with that person feeling better, and then looking at me and hating me and projecting hate onto me, and maybe then, you know, I would get a negative entity come to attach on me. And what happened? Did I bring it about? If I never brought it about, I could certainly have fended it off. It's something to look at, friends and folks. I would appreciate a few words from some of you on this to see how feasible you think this is. And if you don't think it's feasible, then I think that you are possibly experiencing a high level of denial about the potential of this world and this universe. Because the more you look at it and the more you open your mind to the possibility of these sort of things, the more you see and the more you can quite understand the reality of it, because it is wilder than your craziest imagination. It's just like a wild psychedelic trip. Really, this thing is a psychedelic trip. Only we're so used to it, we don't think we're tripping. But I'm telling you people, we're fucking tripping. We're proper tripping. Because there's no reality here. And when you look for the reality, all you see is, it's kind of like when you watch the film Men in Black, and Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, they go in to see one of these aliens. Tommy Lee Jones knows he's an alien because he's an old agent. And Will Smith, he doesn't, because he's just been newly recruited. And Tommy Lee Jones asks the alien, have you sold one of these particular weapons to something like an encephalopod or something? No, 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 no. I'm going to ask you again, right? Otherwise I'm going to waste you. And, you know, they start to go crazy like this, and then they crumble, and the real self comes out. And so this is what it's like when you look at the world. It all crumbles down, and something makes manifest and reveals itself which you never even dreamed of, considered that was there. And this is the thing. When we look at any institution, when we look at any body, when we look at anything really, when you look at it and look at it and look at it, it turns completely into something else. Because the more we look at something, it morphs into something else. And this is why science now, quantum physicists, are in such a conundrum about what this world is, because progressively they've been thinking that they know it, and they're getting to know it, and they're almost at the point where they're going to know everything. And then when they get to that point where I think, this is it boys, we're going to know everything, then they realise that they don't know anything at all. And even what they thought they knew is really, really illusory. And potentially erroneous. And if it's not erroneous at this particular moment in time, the information is purely transitory. And as we know, all we have to do is look back in history when we thought as a species we knew something, and now the information has superseded that, hasn't it? So what we must bear in mind all the time when we think we know something, and when people talk about science, or science say this and science say that, just say, hang on. Listen, how is science going to feel about this exact same thing or subject in 10 years' time, 50 years' time, 100 years' time? Can you imagine? It will be unimaginably different. What we are considering, that we are, and this world is, and what this world and universe consists of, unimaginably different. And this is why I say, don't ever think that you know anything. Don't ever hold fast to your beliefs. Just keep an open mind, like Heraclitus, one of the Greek philosophers, said. This world, universe, is in constant flux, in a constant transitional state, never ever remaining the same. Talk to you later, people.